become really successful at an early age. I was, famous when I was 19, and I was very successful at 19. I had already done a Broadway show, hit records, and had a television series coming on the air at 19. My career and my life, I've been doing this a long, long time. By the time I was 33 or 34, I had gone through the highs, the lows, and coming back to the highs again. So it was, for me, a very, very difficult time. I had lost my manager. I'd lost my dad, tragically, and I felt very much like somebody who was out there sort of drifting. And for me, analysis was the answer. And I was hiding. I was hiding a lot of the fear that I had about people finding out. They bought into, they loved David Cassidy, this image that was created, which was not really me. It was my face and my name and my likeness and my voice.
My public self.
My public self that was created out of a television character that people fell in love with. But what if underneath it, I'm not sure I really feel worthy of all of this adulation and attention. Maybe if they found out who David Cassidy really was, maybe they wouldn't love him so much.
Incredibly low self-esteem.
Well, I think that it's difficult to try and compete with that kind of an image, too. Can anyone? You have to be very grounded to have that kind of success. And even with being grounded, I don't think anybody can go through that and come out the other side and just be okay. I don't know anyone.
There's a certain point where fame is such a huge animal and takes over and becomes so big that if you're subjected to it, you can't come out. Like the Michael Jacksons of the world, like the Elizabeth Taylors, the people who grew up, Elvis Presley.
Correct. I think that you can't, until you've actually done it and had that kind of fame and that kind of adulation, you can't imagine when the world perceives you as this god or demigod or superhuman, how no one reacts to you the way they react to you, or the way you react to each other. Nobody responds to you that way. The world is a different world. So the moment you wake up, no one speaks to you in the same way. No one. If you're present and you say, look, I'm going to try and do this, and you meet someone and say, look, I know what you've seen, all that. Forget all that. You can't do it. It doesn't work. People can't forget. They're looking at you, but they're not really seeing you. They're seeing all of the things. They're listening to your records. They're seeing you on television. They're seeing you in concert. Whatever it is, whatever their fantasy about you is, you can't break through that. And that was the most difficult thing for me to deal with, because I kept saying, look, I know all that's there, but really I'm just this guy.
It's me. Look at me.
And I had to make the choice, which is why for me to retire and to leave it was such an easy and obvious one for me, and the only alternative for me, so that I knew instinctively the only way to survive and to have now a life in the 30s and my 40s and to be successful and to wake up in the morning and to be happy again was to distance myself from it and remove myself from it. I mean, I loved it and loved the fact that I was able to have such an impact on people, but really leaving it was the thing that saved my life.
We'll be back with more with the extraordinary man, Mr. David Cassidy, right after this.
Stay with us. This fascinating conversation with David Cassidy will continue.
We're back with David Cassidy after what you have said, and I know that you have a wonderful marriage now, an amazing wife, and a little boy named Bo.
Yeah, my son is 5 years old, and
your nightmare is, Dad, I want to be in showbiz.
I'm already living that nightmare. Of course, when I was a kid, I was 3 years old. I was growing up around New York. My mom and dad were divorced when I was about 3 and a half. But I got to see my father do a show at 3 years old on Broadway called Wish You Were Here, from which there was a big hit record that I think Eddie Fisher had. But, yeah, never him.
What was the record? What was the song?
It's called Wish You Were Here.
Oh, Wish You Were Here, sorry.
Yeah. And I was 3 years old, and I remember seeing it. I can remember the excitement. I still can remember. It was one of my earliest recollections. That's how excited I was when I saw him. And I can remember being in the car, driving home. We lived just on the other side of New Jersey. Driving through the tunnel. I remember being in the car going, Daddy, can I do that?
Oh, wow.
And I can remember the sense of feeling this excitement and this buzz. And I remember them saying to me, no, you can't do that now. You have to wait until you graduate from high school. And I promise
sich nach dem Training eine wohltuende Massage gönnen oder einfach mal abschalten wollen. Dann ist der Relax Max Rückenmasseur genau
is a natural diuretic. And the laxative she hid, she got very clever, and it was